I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone and welcome to our 1:30 City Council, our regular meeting. At this time, we'll stand for our pledge of allegiance and our invocation by Councilman Loftus. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our most gracious Father, we thank you again for this day which you have blessed us with. We thank you for the opportunity you have given us to serve our citizens. And we pray, dear Father, that you will give us the wisdom to make the right decision. We continue to ask your blessings as we go down life journey. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, we'll, what's it, presentation? Mm-hmm. At this time, we'll have a presentation of the 2019 Dispatcher of the Year Award.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This award was started in 2016, is when I implemented this award. The recipients of this award get their name plate with the year on it, and it gets hung on our name plate outside the dispatch on the Dispatcher of the Year Award plaque. This year's recipient has really stepped up and filled the shoes of a senior dispatcher in that role. She's not an I person, she's always for the team. She's very dedicated to her career and the training and the betterment of the team as a whole. She's an excellent role model as a senior dispatcher as well as a representative for the Borger Regional Communications Center. I'm proud to have her on this team as she plays a very vital role. So this year's recipient of the 2019 Dispatcher of the Year Award is Rebecca Kersey. And along with that, she gets the good job.
Picture.
Good job. Thanks. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll steal it from them. Okay. Next, we'll entertain the consent items. No, questions and answers, I'm sorry. At this time, we'll have questions and comments from our citizens. If anyone would like to speak at this time, now will be the time. I see none, so we'll move to our next item.
I make a motion we accept consent items 1 through 3.
Second.
Now, motion and a second, all in favor? Motion counts. Items to consider and take appropriate action to accept or reject the all winning bids from Texas Community Group online bidding process.
So you've got some more properties there. I did run a few more numbers to kind of update everybody where we are as a whole. So right now, we still have 76 properties that are open for bidding on the website. Since we started now, we've had a total of 115 properties sell. Of those, 67 were purchased out of the area and 48 were purchased by residents of the area. So it's about 42% local, 58% out of the area. We've invoiced a total of $53,575 for those properties, and we've received $37,707 so far. Other than that, these are pretty standard. What the next batch, there's 12 of them this time. I guess they've been busy.
Yeah.
It's well worth paid for itself already.
Yes, it's good. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept all winning bids from the Texas Communities Group online bidding process for 12 properties located in the city of Borger and to authorize the mayor to sign and execute the tax deed for each property on behalf of the city.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor? Motion carried. Item 2, consider and take appropriate action on resolution R-003-20 denying Southwestern Public Service Company's August 8, 2019 statement of intent and application to increase Base Avenue. Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Mayor, on or about August 8th, the SBS filed a statement of intent to increase its rates to all 80 of its member cities, basically the base rates, in an amount of about $136 million. The big driver of this rate increase is obviously new infrastructure in the form of wind turbines and things that are come online. There will be a significant offset of this in fuel cost savings. So, but given the fact that it's such a voluminous filing, some 30,000 pages and so, like we do almost in all of these, typically we will suspend that because normally you only have 35 days to approve it. By suspending it, you get 90 days, and then or an additional 90 days, and then later on in the process, SBS updated their numbers, which adds another 25 or 30 days to that, no, 45 days to that. So essentially, we have to take action by January 25th, although I think SBS has now extended that deadline to February 14th because some of the cities were not going to be able to take action. But by denying it, SBS will appeal the denial to the Public Utility Commission, Texas. That is expected. They are expecting us to deny it, so it's not going to be upsetting or anything to SBS. They're kind of expecting it. In fact, they like it that way. So that way they come out with one unanimous rate across the board for all of the 80 cities. So I wrote a pretty long memo, and also I enclosed a lot of information from the AXM attorney, which we are a member of. So I'd like to, be willing to answer any questions I can on it. Other than that, I would recommend that we go ahead and approve the resolution to deny the rate increase at this time, and then we'll go through the process of settling that case, through the PUC.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Eddie, in your history, is this fairly routine? Seems like we do this a lot.
Well, it's becoming more and more routine because in SPS's defense, they've invested billions of dollars in infrastructure to make their electrical grid and upgrade it. In that respect, and that costs money. And the way the laws are written in the state is they cannot recover that money until they go through a rate case. Obviously, the more the spend, the more often those rate cases are going to come. I've been doing this many, many years. 10 years ago, when there wasn't quite as much infrastructure going in, you'd see these rate cases spaced out over 3 or 4 years. Now you're seeing one almost every year. And a lot of times with the length it takes to litigate these things, sometimes 9 to 15 months to settle it once from beginning to end. It won't surprise me at some point where we're overlapping, where they're filing their next one before the previous one is settled. There again, once they get through a lot of the infrastructure and get and that's a good thing. Don't hold me wrong. It's a good thing to have that upgraded infrastructure. We have some of the best infrastructure and the best rate for not having brown outages or anything like that in this area. Plus, it's an economic tool for the entire area, so it's a good thing. Unfortunately, the process we have to go through to make sure that the rates are fair and just is a long drawn-out process, and it's probably going to overlap at some time.
Okay.
Anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution R-003-20 denying Southwestern Public Services Company's request to increase rates.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Item 3, consider and take appropriate action to award bid for Type 1 fire equipment to C-grade fire apparatus LLC using HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program contract number FS 12-19 in the amount of $729,736. Mr. Watson.
Good afternoon. The reason we need this truck is, first of all, it takes about a year to get it. We can certify our trucks for 25 years, and engine 3 is about to expire. It's got a couple years left, and it's to a point where I just talked to the mechanics today. He said he can keep it going for about another year before we're gonna have to sink a lot of money into it, and then in another year, get rid of it anyway. So to keep our rotation current and to keep everything going, if we order it now, we're still a year out before we'll get that engine. And by that time, engine 3 will be almost out of its lifetime anyway.
What year model is engine 3?
97.
97.
Talk about the door.
Yeah, the passenger door on the front, the officer's seat, it won't stay closed, so we have to use a bungee cord. The windows won't roll up on that side. It's been broke for a long time. The reason we didn't fix it is we have to take it to Baton Rouge, and they want $20,000, I believe, to replace it. So that's kind of where we're at with this truck. It's reserved, so we don't use it that often, but it is in our fleet, and it does apply to our gallons, GPMs of water that we have to be able to supply to keep our ISO rating. So that's kind of where we're at.
As we kind of go through this, we talk about trying to get on a rotation schedule. Back when we bought engine 1, the frontline engine now, and when I was working with Bob on that and the original ladder, I went back and ran the minutes back to 1947. And I found that we tend to have a bad time about buying one apparatus, waiting 15 years, and then having to buy 2. And then waiting 15 years and buying 1 because we think we're being cheaper, but then 15 years later you have to buy 2. So this, by adding this, we're trying to reduce that to where we've got even space between buying 1 apparatus so that we don't have to ever buy down and get 2. It just kind of screws that up. So we're kind of trying to change 60 years worth of.
Kind of like how it is with the police
Right.
vehicles that Eddie has done. Yeah.
But we've had 4 frontline apparatuses going back to the 50s when they were doing that. You know, this would retain those 4 frontline apparatuses. The only difference is we did have that aerial unit. And I kind of would remind everybody, before we did that, our last ISO rating was at a 4. When we went from a 4 to a 2, it dropped the insurance rates in our community by 12%. And so the way we look at that is you can either invest in your local fire department and your firefighters that serve and live in your community, or you can pay that 12% to your insurance company that goes to New York or wherever and doesn't directly benefit your community. So I do think pushing keeping our ISO rating down and supporting this, you know, definitely is a good community service.
And we are due for a survey just any day. I put them off just about as long as I could, but I figure the next time they call, they're probably gonna show up, so. That's where, I mean, you don't really have much choice. Used to, they would've never hound you, but by going to a 2 in other cities doing that, the insurance companies are losing money, basically. So if they can catch you where you're not at a 2, then they can raise your rates again, they make more money. So we kind of need to keep that going.
And we want to be ready. We missed ISO 1 last time by like a point and a half.
Yeah, you said y'all were working toward that. What does that take? I mean,
Basically, to get a 1, the 2 things we would have to have is we would need a substation in Buena Vista and a training field with at least a 4-story drill tower.
We might be able to sneak by with it. Keep in mind that 60% of your ISO rating is your water infrastructure. Because, you know, they can have all the training and they can have all the apparatus they want, but if there's no water to flow through the trucks or to come out of the hose, it doesn't do any good. And so since that last rating, you know, we have invested $38 million in our water infrastructure. So I'm not 100% sure how that will affect our flow, but it will some. The station alerting system that the council put in and the fire station renovations gains you a couple of points here and there because it's what they call a monitored dispatch link now. We get emails if it goes down, and it can dispatch over the internet or through the radios. So that was something we were lacking the last time we had rating too. So I definitely don't think we've lost ground.
No.
How much ground we've gained, if any, I don't know, but I will say that if we don't replace the apparatus and we lose
yeah, you lose.
an apparatus, I doubt you would maintain a 2.
Well, and it'll probably help us with the new truck because you get points for a CAV system. Engine 3 doesn't have calves on it, but the new engine will. So all 3 of our frontline engines will have calves.
And what he means by that, I don't know how many of y'all remember from the last time, but compressed air foam, when you insert compressed air foam into a building that's on fire, it creates a lot of bubbles, and those bubbles absorb heat. So in a lot of cases, that first blast of the nozzle can reduce the temperature inside that room by several hundred degrees. And so that's the difference between the firefighter being able to make entry and fight the fire versus having to stay out and contain the fire. So ISO gives you a huge rating increase for that because now you've got a lot more fires that you can actually go in and fight and contain to a room or less damage than if you just have to let the house burn down. And so that's the deal with compressed air foam.
Now, I noticed this particular engine has a 30-gallon tank for foam,
Yes,
and there's 2 types, A and B foam.
yes.
Can you educate me what the difference is?
The Class A foam or Class B foam, that's a lot of what they use at airports like AFFF.
Okay,
It's a real heavy foam. What we use, Class A, it was developed originally for wildland. And they found that if we aerate it good but like with calves, what it does is we can adjust it to where we can just cover it or we can make a shaving cream out of it, basically. Long and the short of it, with calves, we can triple the water in our tank.
Because you're introducing air into the flow.
Yeah, 500 gallons of water, we can turn it into 1,500 gallons of water by using the foam.
as far as effect.
Right,
Yeah,
your
yes.
water can go
Okay,
longer because you're.
And the foam works because it sits on top, where if you just put water is heavy,
Yeah,
goes
water
down.
runs off.
But the foam sits on top and suffocates
It'll
any.
encapsulate, the foam molecules actually encapsulate the, besides getting rid of the BTUs, it'll encapsulate those smoke molecules. To put it into perspective, when we first got them, we did some tests with them and we were learning how to use them. And you could thermal image a room at 1,200 degrees. We could shoot across the ceiling with calves for about a 3-second burst, and almost instantly it would go to 400. So that's the heat absorption capabilities. So basically, if somebody's in a back bedroom and we know where they are, we can take out a window, pencil the ceiling, and it'll reduce the heat on them till we can get people through the door to pick them up. So it's a really good tool.
And this engine has a 750 gallon tank.
Yes.
I'm curious, why they're so expensive, and having spent probably 2 hours looking at all the detail, I see where the expense comes from. We have, I call them HUMs, Health Usage Monitor. You call it a vehicle data recorder. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what I think of a HUM, where it tracks engine speed, temperatures, usage, and all that. Okay.
Yeah, our mechanics hook into it when they get Like, well, they're here now doing quarterlies on them, and they plug into that to see what's going on with the rig.
Yeah, and I would add too, we kind of went through this with the last engine too, but engine one and this engine would be stainless steel. The engines that we've had before that, to save costs, we had purchased aluminum. But what we learned when we totaled those two fire trucks is, when you have an impact on aluminum, the stress goes through the entire body and fractures all of the aluminum welds throughout the truck. So pretty much a low impact almost totals the entire truck. So we do pay a little bit more now for stainless steel, but you can weld it without the need for special aluminum welders, and the impact is contained to a smaller area. And so we kind of benefited pretty early on in this new truck when it kind of backed into a pole with that stainless steel. But so that is the reason, one of the biggest cost differences that you see between some other trucks that are out there is aluminum versus stainless steel.
Well, and I saw lots of warranties on, because there's lots of high-end materials. 6 batteries, what do those 6 batteries charge?
Everything.
I mean, but what draws 6 batteries worth of amps?
Well, everything on that truck is electric, all the computer systems, the lights, the they're pumps.
Pressure gauges.
Yeah, everything. I mean, it's just, they draw a tremendous amount of juice. The alternators are
Well,
huge.
the pumps run on engines that run off diesel.
Yeah, they're PTO.
Yeah, yeah. But that's to crank them, and I'm just curious. Okay.
That's got to start the generator for lights, all kinds of, the radios, all that kind of stuff.
And I would just like to say, that it's not, that this is going to be replacing a loan that is paid off for the last engine. It's not going to, it's not going to affect.
Right, the way we're trying to set this up is knowing that these apparatus are very expensive and knowing that we need them and we're gonna have to replace them, is to kind of keep that funding stream set so that when you pay off one, you buy the other. And
We can save some money too to go get it ourselves. We did it last time. We sent 2 people, myself and another guy, to go get it. We took a couple days of school on it and then drove it home.
And, we did the pre-build last year and went up and toured the sea. Every ounce of a fire truck is a custom-made vehicle. They are hand-cut. There's a little bit of machinery work, but not a lot. It is.
I noticed in the spec, there's a lot of customization to the climate you live in.
Because we added the RV air conditioners in the cab because, in July and it's 110 and you get out of a burning building. One of my jokes about going up there and building that fire truck is, and this goes to that climate, is in Wisconsin, they've got 6-foot metal sticks on the back of their fire hydrants so they can find them under all the snow.
Yeah.
But Bob, this says that this price includes the delivery.
It does. If we go up and get it, they'll take that off. I'm not sure how much it is. In 2009 or 10, when we went and got the other one, we saved $5,000 by picking it up ourselves. So, actually, we picked up 2. Engine 1 and engine 2 both came from Seagrave that we have now. And we picked them up both times. So I would assume it would be more now for delivery than it was then. So we can still save money if we need to by picking them up ourselves.
And usually, to me, that's a good idea because, our guys got to be handling that. And when you drive them back, I know when I worked for the Park Service, that's what we had to do, go pick them up and see how they handle on the road when you're coming back. And you can, if you've got some experience, you can kind of, okay, something not right here. And by the time you get here, you can call them back and say, hey, we got a question.
But they will take that off of there,
Yes.
off of the price.
Yes.
This quote is the highest possible quote.
Okay.
And we found some mistakes last time when we went to the factory. We found some things that we didn't like that weren't, they weren't big, but there were stuff that needed to be changed because that's not what they bid us. It was just an honest mistake got overlooked. But I think they spent 2 days fixing it before we could bring it back.
And it's better than having it delivered and you find a mistake here.
Well,
Yes.
that's why they do pay for your hotel and stuff to go up there and do the pre-build conference. And it is definitely a hands-on process. They know you're spending a lot of money. They build these for 25 years. They know you're gonna have them for 25 years, especially with Seagraves. That's why the city of New York has used them almost exclusively for 60 years.
And you get 2 days training if you go up there, you said, right?
Sir?
And you get the training on them while you're there as well.
Yes, that's
also-
included in the price that they give us training on them. That's one reason we want to stay with Seagrave. We've got 2 now, and both of ours from the cab back are identical. So our guys know where everything is. The axe on each truck is in the same place, and this one will be a triplet to all the rest of them. So, I mean, it won't take a lot of training, you know, for them to get accustomed to it because they're identical. One feature I did add was 360-degree cameras for the driver. That way, if he's backing up or on the highway, he can see down both sides of his rig and what's going on behind him. The Park Service, their new engine has a camera you can see behind you, and it's really handy. I know all you probably got them in your car when you back up. In those big trucks, you can't see anything back there. Even with the backer, we've still had some problems from time to time, so that was one thing I did add to this truck.
Yeah, it shows there's been a lot of thought.
What's that?
I said, the specs show a lot of forethought.
It took about a year and a half, 2 years of research when we bought the first one to figure out what I wanted to buy. Because, I mean, I know it's expensive, but it's the best value for our city.
Well, we
As
knew
far
back
as
then we weren't,
longevity of that truck.
we knew we wanted consistency, and we knew over time, you know, we know that you don't buy a fire truck every year, so it takes a long time to get consistency in the fleet. So knowing that we had the ability to change, you know, Bob, Mike, me, a lot of that department, there was a lot of time creating that initial set of specs, and that's been really handy, because like this time, we've just had to kind of tweak it to some of the modern developments and modern enhancements. It's
Yeah,
very much the same, but it's also amazing how much changes in 10 years.
Yeah, no, there's a sticker shock, but when you see the specs and you begin to understand what is expected and the fact that lives matter, it helps
And I think,
to
you know,
justify to our constituency, this is what we need to do.
especially for a city our size, you know, larger cities can maybe, you know, lowball some specs and stuff because they buy them enough and they can rotate them enough. Like Amarillo only keeps a truck on the front line for 15 years before it goes to reserve, you know, that we don't have that luxury, you know.
We gotta get another 10 out of it, which is why aluminum body trucks don't work. The vibration makes the screw holes wear out, door panels fall off. I mean,
Which is exactly the problems
Yeah.
we're having with Engine 3.
they're a disposable truck, is what aluminum body trucks
Is
are.
engine 3 paid off?
Yeah,
Time ago.
Okay.
I hope so.
and we will,
It's a good question.
Curious.
It's a good question.
when we get the new truck in, we will likely put Engine 3 on Purple Wave, or we'll auction it.
That's what I was
Yeah,
looking, I figured
yeah.
that'd be the next thing, you know, more money.
Go to Sunloan and get a line of credit.
$100,000 out of it
Oh, okay.
from some city.
No, I guess I meant is engine, is the one,
We
yeah.
have no outstanding
Okay,
debt on
that's
any
what I
fire
wanted
truck.
to know.
How
Okay,
about-
thank you.
Because 1 and 2 paid off at the same time, didn't
Okay.
The
they?
last one we bought last year was a grass rig, and we financed that through our
Okay.
equipment fund.
Through the equipment.
The big
This
apparatus,
is
the
a little
ladder,
big
and
for
the,
our
Yeah,
equipment fund.
for sure.
So,
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
just keep in mind, at some point, we'll come back to you guys with the financing options for the vehicle, probably when we get a little closer to delivery on it. So.
Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
I move to approve the contract with Seagraves Fire Apparatus LLC in the amount of $729,736 for the purchase of a new fire engine using HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Agreement number FS 12-19.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All in agreement? Last but not least, consider and take appropriate action to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.